1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know why I'm counting up. I guess we should be live right now. Hi everybody and welcome. This is the Apostate Prophets. I hope you're having a fantastic day. I haven't done a live chat in quite a while.
Hi everybody and welcome. This is the
I can hear myself. No. Okay.
Having a fantastic day. I haven't done a live chat in quite a while.
You need to mute your.
Having a fantastic day. I haven't done a live chat in quite a while.
You need to mute your. I think you need to close your YouTube tab.
Me?
Yeah. I think so.
And just like that.
Really? It went away?
That's crazy.
Wonderful. Okay, wonderful. Fantastic. At least it worked. Did you close it?
Yeah, sorry about that.
No problem. I had mine open too at first.
Oh.
It went kind of totally the wrong way. But anyway, it's great. It's great. I love starting it with kind of messing it up myself first, and then you messing it up just made it better because I don't have to feel bad about myself.
I do apologize.
No problem at all. No problem at all. I don't think anyone will really be mad at us. Anyway, this is the Apostate Prophet. Hi everybody and welcome. We haven't done a live chat in quite a long time, I believe. That's because I'm always busy doing something else. But today I want to finally talk to Iman, also known as One Godless Woman, and I have been wanting to talk to her forever. Just didn't happen, like in over 1.5 years. Finally, we are here. Iman, how are you doing?
I am very well, thank you, and I'm so excited to be here today talking to you.
I appreciate that so much. Thank you. I'm very excited to talk to you. It's a kind of a crazy time right now. It's been a terrible year so far, right?
It definitely has been.
Yeah. I had this thing like 2019 for me was everything was upside down, and I thought this is terrible. 2020 will be a great year. It will be fantastic. And then 2020 came, and it's like, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, can we go back?
Yeah. Anyway, we are here. Everything seems okay. So you are known as One Godless Woman, or also known by your real name, Iman. Many people here know you. Many people have asked for you. I would like to ask you first off, who are you? Who are you? Where did you come from? Just tell us a little bit about who you are, about your backgrounds, what you're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I am from Saudi Arabia originally. I am half Egyptian, half Saudi, because sometimes people wonder about my Egyptian accent, and that's where it comes from. My mother is actually Egyptian. The other thing is I was born in England, and I was there for somewhere between 8 to 9 years when my father, who was studying surgery, he was getting his fellowship from England, moved to Saudi Arabia, and he took us all with him. And that's where I grew up until the age of 26, when I finally was able to escape, get out. The reason I believe people always wonder about my name, One Godless Woman, and some people seem to take offense a little bit to my name. So I always try to explain why I call myself One Godless Woman. That term is basically because in the last little while in Saudi Arabia, before I finally managed to escape, to get out, I was abducted by the religious authorities, and I was framed, and I was imprisoned for about 3 months. During those 3 months, there were various forms of torture that were applied to me, but one of the big ones, believe it or not, was calling me that name. It was psychological. They kept calling me a woman who doesn't have a God, on top of other things they called me. So that's where I got that name. Just wanted to put that out there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I appreciate that. I wanted to ask about it anyway. I wanted to ask where the whole One Godless Woman name comes from, but that's very it's interesting. It's kind of it's sad to know. Why were you? How did that happen? How did you get into that situation? You said you were abducted.
I was, yeah. So I was a doctor when I was abducted. I was doing a rotating internship in the King Fahd National Guard Hospital in Riyadh. Now, I come from a very fractured polygamist household, and my mother wasn't around at the time. My father had remarried another woman, wife number 2, who was very mean and cruel to me. So women couldn't drive in Saudi Arabia, so I was very dependent on having a driver. Pick me up from work, drop me off, and all that stuff. I had just finished a 24-hour night shift, and I had called my home to get the driver to come, and she just hung up. And I kind of got the point that she wasn't going to send the driver to me. So I waited, and it turned into, I don't know, 3 hours, I think, of waiting. And finally, my colleague who was on call with me, who was a guy, he was a male physician, he was leaving, and he saw me, and he knows me. So he's like, Iman, what's going on? I explained everything to him, and he's like, get in the car, I'll drop you home. So I talked to him before I got in the car with him because I was very concerned about the religious authorities. He said, sit next to me. That way they think you're my wife or my sister, and we won't get stopped. So that's what I did, and I didn't cover my face. And sure enough, as we drove off, we passed by a mosque. And I immediately saw the religious police guy standing in front of the mosque, staring us down in the vehicle. And that's where I kind of just knew everything. That was the end of that day for me. And I said to him, he's staring at us, said to my friend who was driving. And he proceeded to say, look, he's on foot. We're in a vehicle. We're fine. And I thought, you know what? You're right. That does make sense. We're fine. And before you know it, we had 4 GMCs, 1 in front of us, 1 behind us, and 2 on either side of us. And they surrounded, and they kept closing in on the vehicle that we were in until we had to stop. We had to come to a stop. And as soon as that happened, the men opened up their doors. They came out and got us to open up our doors. They pulled him out. They never touched me, but they ordered me to get out of the car and get into the GMC where they locked it. They locked it. Like there was no way to exit. And they started beating him up in front of me. This was because he couldn't show them any proof that I was related to him. They did request proof. So that was it. That was the abduction. And within 24 hours, I was in the female prison. And I had no clue what was going on, why I was here, where I was going to go. I didn't know anything. It was after I was released that I realized what they framed me with.
But it was so the original motive was just that you were
in a car with a boy.
In a car with someone that you are not married to, that you are not legally supposed to be together with.
Yeah.
And that just happened to happen. So such a control by the authority just.
It's the norm. I mean, how was it? Did you live in Turkey?
I lived in Turkey, yeah, but Turkey is incomparable to that. Turkey is a completely secular country where people think they are living the true Islam, but it's not remotely anything similar to Islamic countries, which are much more terrible than we could possibly describe here.
Yeah.
But
no, women are pretty much property in Saudi Arabia, and the religious authorities have the right to stop anybody. They have if a woman is with a man, you have to make sure it's on you to have your paperwork with you, because it's their right to do that. And in Saudi Arabia, the woman, because she's considered property, her name will appear on the male ID, which is why he was asked, not me, if I was related to him.
Yeah, it is that you are the man's woman. That is how you are registered. You are the man's woman. And if the man has 4 wives, then the
Yes.
4 wives are the man's women. That is how you are listed. You are not
Exactly.
you're not free separate individuals like you are here in the West, where you can do whatever you want. You are they basically own you. It's basically ownership.
That's
So,
exactly right.
you refer to the name One Godless Woman there. Is that during this whole abduction, during this whole what's it called? I mean, when they had you, is that how they insulted you? How they referred to you?
Yeah,
While
they
they were
called me everything under the sun, right? They really made a point in they paraded me in front of their fellow religious thugs.
Mhm.
And as they paraded me, they kept calling, "Look, she's a doctor. That whore. She's a doctor. She has no God." They kept. That's like, it's shaming, shaming the mob, right?
Yeah. You have a medical degree, so you are an actual doctor.
I am. Yeah.
You are awesome. Someone was making a joke about medical doctor. I think that was in comparison to Zakir Naik or something.
Oh. No. I understand that a lot of these religious people, scholars, they put the term doctor in front of their name.
Yeah.
And I think it's is just to pretend or to show that they're experts, and you can't really argue.
Yeah. That's what really happens. But that's what really happens. So I want to get into that whole thing. I mean, when you described it here, it just sounds unreal to so many people. How the stuff that you experience in Saudi Arabia or in similarly authoritarian, woman-hating countries that are not free at all. Some people really don't. I mean, cannot believe that we are describing these things, that these things actually happen. But I talked about this thing, for example, once that even married people cannot show public affection in Saudi Arabia. Cannot just do these things like affectionately hold hands or just give each other a kiss and stuff like that. That is illegal.
Yeah.
While public executions are normal, for example. People
will gather and clap for public executions.
See, that is the mindset. That is the thing. I mean, compare those two sentiments. It is wrong and immoral and bad and illegal to go out there and to just show a tiny sign of affection for your partner or for somebody. That is illegal, and you can get in serious trouble for that. And the police, the authorities can come and can throw you in jail and can fine you for that. Whereas public executions, the public killing of people with the public watching, are completely normal and considered necessary. So look at that contrast.
It's an interesting, Sharia, I don't know what to say, but I'll tell you something else, by the way, and it's a little bit off topic, but still relates.
Sure.
And the way I came to Canada was on something, it was a special Saudi doctor visa program because Canada was so short on physicians. But I was made to sign a whole bunch of papers in Saudi Arabia, including I'm not allowed to marry non-Saudi, basically a Canadian guy, I'm not allowed. I was made to sign very strange things that are considered violation of your human rights. Yeah. But the other thing I wanted to tell everyone is that program, which the conservatives here are fighting to reinstall, at least one of them is, when I was brought here, Sharia law was applied to me here. I was brought here with the understanding that if anything happens to me, Islamic Sharia is the law that will be applied to me. I did not fall under the category of Canadian or Canadian laws to be applied to me. That was a contingency. And I know people probably don't believe this, but that is the case because we sign about 100 different papers to make sure that that's the way it is. They keep us on a leash.
No, it completely sounds. I mean, I can totally imagine that is the case. That Saudi Arabia would guarantee that people who are from Saudi Arabia and who go to a different country to work there or to temporarily be there, even to live there, would still be judged by the atrocious, brutal, dark laws of Saudi Arabia. That is something I can completely imagine, which is why many people who are from Saudi Arabia or who are from similar countries and who come and live in Western countries try to be very careful not to publicly violate the laws of their own countries and not to make that publicly known, not to let them get wind of that situation.
Yeah.
It is really ridiculous. You have been in a struggle to become a Canadian citizen. What happened to that? I that's kind of what I saw you go through at some point. How is that?
Well, I've actually been here since 2003.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know that.
But I've never applied. I just never have because I don't know. There are things within me, deficiencies that make me not feel that I should be applying. But I finally decided, you know what? I'm very invested in this country. I love it. I care for it deeply. Politics is a ruthless thing to get into, and kind of not being Canadian doesn't help my cause. So I thought, I don't know. I thought, what's the best way to do this? I do have a producer. We talked and we decided let's attempt it this way. So we started a GoFundMe, and thankfully I remain in shock at how kind and generous and loving Canadians are, unlike what our Prime Minister keeps saying. You know, they're not racist. Because everyone donated, and I had enough money to pay for a lawyer and to have some issues come up and still figure them out, pay the proper people, and apply. So the application remains in process. I don't know where it is. I've tried to get a hold of anyone during this COVID situation, but hopefully soon I'll find out.
Why didn't you want to become a Canadian citizen to begin with? Or what was the thought there? If it's not to...
No, it's fine. To be honest, as probably people will get upset if I say this, but I didn't feel worthy.
You didn't feel worthy?
No.
I guess I get where the idea comes from. I mean, I am familiar with the sentiment. I'm familiar with the feeling. It's I'm familiar with the sentiment, but why didn't you feel worthy? I mean, what was it that really held you back? I mean, you come from Saudi Arabia. It's obviously not a place that you belong to. Obviously not a place that you should have on your identity. And here you have a home.
No, I'm not Saudi. I know I carry the passport. I'd like to give it away, but unfortunately, they don't even allow you to renounce your citizenship. They can only take it from you. But with regards to why, I don't know. I can't tell you. I hold Canadians in Canada at such a high, like you can't even imagine. Like I chose to come to Canada. I'm well traveled. I've been to different parts of the world. I've seen the States. I love America. But there was something that captivated me about Canada. And I felt, I have to prove myself before I apply. So
I sympathize with that. I mean, I have I don't know if you know anything about my background, but I was born in Germany, in a very Western country, and then I had to move to Turkey, which is kind of between secularism and Islam, and it's the entire country is having a collective identity crisis.
I know.
But it's like I came from the west to Turkey, and I just couldn't find myself there, and everything felt so awkward, so weird, and I couldn't get used to that. And all I wanted to do was just go back to the west where I thought I belong. And now I'm here, and people tell me that that this culture, this country is racist or intolerant or unjust and all that stuff. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about, man? You have no idea what injustice means. You have no idea what racism means. You have no idea what any of these things stand for. I mean, this is heaven compared to that. I get that sentiment.
You're right. And to me, it's strange because now the West is beginning to allow strange things to happen on their soil. An example is allowing, now I don't know how they couldn't know that the Saudi Islamic Sharia was still applied to me when I came here to work in the hospital, to a point where I was sexually harassed, sexually assaulted, and I still was afraid to come forth. And Canadians, like the Canadian physicians, didn't understand it. They're like, you need to go to the police. You're lying. Otherwise, I'm like, how? Look at what will happen to me under the laws that are being applied to me, even though I'm in Canada. And as soon as I went to the police, guess what happened? The Saudis retaliated and they ended my scholarship. So,
what would happen? What would happen if everything is known about you? I mean, you have a public platform. Some Saudi authorities already know what you are doing, all the things that you have said, your work, that you call yourself one godless woman. What would happen if you decided to go back to Saudi Arabia and set foot on the soil of Saudi Arabia or in the desert of Saudi Arabia, whatever you want to call it? What would happen?
Well, I'm known. I can tell you that to the authorities, I am known. Even this platform that I'm on, I have been harassed by activists in Saudi Arabia who have reached out to the Canadian consulate, the Saudi embassy in Canada to get me deported. So the minute I am, whether I step foot by choice, whether I'm deported, whatever happens, I will be arrested, detained, jailed, possibly flogged, depending on how much fun they want to have with me. Then the end result will be execution by beheading, because I'm an open ex-Muslim, and the punishment for irtidad, or being leaving the ideology, is beheading.
Yeah. I find it so ridiculous. I have to have this. I have to say these things. I mean, we're talking about a real life situation here, where you come from that. You have witnessed terrible things there. You are here. You're bound by laws that if you go back, you will go through a lot of terrible, inhuman stuff. You would be tortured. You would be executed. You would be literally killed. This is something that people in the West very often think of as unthinkable, as something that you see in fiction, on TV, or just somewhere in the news. It is just news to people, just statistics to people. But what we're facing here is an actual, real situation where a human could be tortured inhumanely and killed simply because she made very simple life decisions, simply because she said very simple things, because she thought, because she formed ideas, because she didn't want to any longer associate with those terrible sentiments that are in her past. She would be executed for that. A human life would be ended just for that, for very basic things that we do every day here on Twitter or in the street or at school or on TV, everywhere. So this is really what the situation looks like. This should really give people the idea. This should really give the Canadian authorities, the Canadian people in charge, the idea, the motivation to do something about this, to help out, to recognize what's actually going on in the world, to recognize the realities that exist in this world. This should give all these other people who oppose you, who call you out, or even those who support you and think they support you, the understanding of what is actually going on and what actually needs to be done. People like you need support. People like people who go through that same thing need support. We need the support of people who understand us, who are not like Saudi Arabia, who don't tolerate the sentiments. We need the support of governments. That we need more help. We need people to understand what is really happening in this world. I want to remember Brunei. I'm sorry, I just hit the microphone of excitement. I want to remember Brunei. You know, when that whole thing happened in Brunei, the whole death penalty for homosexuality was about to be implemented. People were going crazy. Celebrities were going crazy. They were posting things like boycott Brunei, raise your voices, and this and that. That people were doing that because it was about to be declared. We are talking about several countries, Saudi Arabia and several other countries, in which such things already take place, in which people are already killed, sentenced for being gay, for being apostates, for having opinions. These things exist in this world. It is insane that we are seriously here in 2020 talking about these things. It's crazy. I don't know how else to put it. It makes my blood boil.
It does. It hurts. It hurts a lot. And I'll tell you something else that I was subjected to, and I don't know if you've experienced this, but Canadians, now the majority of Canadians are just lovely and, reasonable, and I'm not generalizing, please. But I get attacked because I'm not from here, because I am speaking out about the problems in Canada. I have been the subject of a very interesting harassment campaign by Canadian men who called me everything that what I was called back home. And they threatened me with the same stuff. And they kept telling me, leave Canada. If you hate Canada so much, get out. I don't understand how my activism, my love for this country comes across as me hating it. And people hating me and demanding that I leave. Even though I don't know if they know what the punishments are. I get the sense there's a little bit of people just don't know what happens to us. Like
it's wild. It's crazy. I want to get back to you being an ex-Muslim. So at the time that you experienced these issues, this inhuman treatment in Saudi Arabia, were you at the time a believing Muslim, or were you already an ex-Muslim? When did that happen? When did this take place? This whole leaving Islam and all that.
So I can't honestly say that I ever truly believed. I can't say that from a very young age, and I think it's because I grew up like you in the West. So we were primed with freedom, and then we were moved into oppression. At least, that's how I saw it. So the shock never left me as a child. And as I grew up with the hijab, with everything, with Islam I went to a madrasa, like everything, indoctrination to the 9th degree. But I couldn't believe. I couldn't truly believe, because there was always a threat. There was always an element of fear. And there was always inequality when it came to girls and women that was never explained to me. And especially the inequality burned. It burned me so much that I couldn't truly ever believe. When I was imprisoned, I was made to pray. They would examine you, right? They would put you down in the common area and see if you're going to pray. So I would pray because I wanted them to leave me alone. I would fast in public because I didn't want the public shame of eating. Or what, even if I was on my period. In Islam, if you're on your period, you're allowed to eat. You don't have to fast. I would still fast, as many other women would, because we didn't want the harassment from the religious authorities in public. And it goes the same for praying, in university, in school even. When 12 noon hits and the bell rings, you go to the mosque. Even in the all-girls school, you pray, then you eat. And the teachers are there taking note. And if you don't pray, they want to know why you didn't pray, because are you on your period? They will ask. This is the reality for us in Islam. So for me now to, and I'm sorry, I'm going to just dive a little bit out. For me to see Canadians or, Western politicians making bed buddies now with very dangerous figures that are Islamists. I don't know. And now I'm seeing the chaos come to the West. It brings back memories of stuff, I know these things, and I'm trying to warn Canadians. I'm not trying to hurt anybody. I am trying to warn.
It's I've always been against the whole alliance that the West seems to have with Saudi Arabia. I sometimes get a little bit hate for this from conservative people, even because in America it sadly happens to be, for example, at this moment, Trump's administration that
I know.
that is so close, so friendly with Saudi Arabia, and that works together with Saudi Arabia in so many international issues, so many political, social issues. But it's really strange for people like us, for people like you and me, to observe that our Western nations can so easily push closer cultures like Russia, like Eastern Europe away, for example, and then go and just so easily hug and embrace and to work with the Muslim Brotherhood or Saudi Arabia or other groups, other countries, work with Qatar or all these countries that where these realities that we are talking about exist, forces that want to enforce such terrible crimes against humanity in the world, that uphold such crimes in the world, like Saudi Arabia or Iran or Kuwait or even in Egypt, for example, when the Muslim Brotherhood took over. Everyone should have seen what the Muslim Brotherhood is back then, and so many people still didn't want to see it.
No, they're too busy living in a bubble.
Yeah. These nations, these forces, these leaderships are no friend of the West. They are no friends of you, of the West, of free nations. They are absolutely not good allies. They will do nothing good for you. They are not after doing anything good for you. All they want to do is to exploit you, to make use of you, to reach a specific level with your help, and to uphold and implement their inhuman, brutal laws and worldviews upon the nations under their influence. And they want to bring you under that influence too. We have so many universities, so many educational institutions here in America, in North America, or throughout the West, that were completely infiltrated. I'm sorry, I'm going to say the word infiltrated. That were infiltrated by Saudi Arabia, that are funded by Saudi Arabia, where Saudi Arabian Islamic institutes exist inside universities that spread terrible ideas to their own students and try to convert as many people as possible, which then create Islamic organizations that try to act like they're peaceful. The same thing happens with the Muslim Brotherhood, which is defended in mass media, like the Washington Post, for example. It's really incredible what kind of a polar mess is going on in this world, and what we are witnessing, and how people are completely blind to these things that are happening. It's crazy. It's really insane.
But it's not just that the blind spot of the West. The West, from what I can see, the ideological subversion between, Islamism and communism has been going on in universities for decades. Now, for me, what opened my eyes was, I don't know if you know Mr. Tom Quiggin. Have you heard of him? The Quiggin Report. He's I might send it to you afterwards, but he's essentially, I guess, the real life Jack Ryan. Like, he's ex-military, he's intelligence. He's written a book about the Muslim Brotherhood and how they've crept in over decades in North America, Europe. Their charitable front groups that they use. So for me, like, that was my great awakening. I don't know if Canadians are not paying attention to intelligence, mostly paying attention to social justice. I don't know, but I can tell you it hurts people like me when I'm from this culture, I'm from this ideology, I escaped it, I suffered under it, and they still call me a racist and an Islamophobe. Do you get called these names?
Of course I do. Of course I do. I mean, I talked about how terrible it is to hear the Islamic call to prayer here in America, simply because of the implications, because of our past with it. And I'm like, well, you're pushing an Islamophobic agenda. What?
Oh dear.
You have no idea what you're talking about, people.
Yeah. No, I hear you, and like I said, everyone's being. Like, this is just a label now. Like, they brush everyone with this label. Brown, white, Canadian, not Canadian, Muslim, not Muslim, doesn't matter.
It's ridiculous. It is equated to racism, and I kind of get the idea why they think it would be racism, because they think people are Islamophobic because Muslims are mostly from racial minorities, which is why people are Islamophobic, which is simply untrue. I'm sorry, there are so many ethnic minorities in America that we don't even talk about because no one cares about them. It is not about their race. It is not about their skin color. It is about the religion itself. It is completely about Islam itself. And having a problem with a religion or even with a religious group, which I don't say this is what we should encourage. I'm saying even if we are talking about that, even if we are talking about bigotry against a religious group or hate toward a religion itself, that cannot be equated to racism, because race is something that you can do absolutely nothing about, that has no teachings, no doctrines, nothing. It is just something you are born with that you can never change in your life. Whereas a religion is something that you can believe in, adopt, and follow, or simply get rid of, and that has very clear doctrines, very clear scripture, very clear rules that are sadly known to everybody now when it comes to Islam, because of how invasive Islam is in the world.
Yeah.
You cannot compare these things. It's stupid.
Well, one of the biggest, when I talk about ideological subversion, one of the biggest things that have happened in the West is Islamists have come in and they've conflated things to Western people who don't know. They just don't know. They don't know the difference between a Muslim and an Islamist, and Islam and Islamophobia and Islamism, and they don't know. So these people have come in and conflated everything for them. And the Western, like the people who truly don't know, are just stunned. They're like, okay, I don't know what to do at this point, so I'm just going to follow the mainstream,
Yeah. One of those things was, for example, the term moderate Muslim. Like we started using this weird term moderate Muslim, and I guess the implication of that was that what was that the problematic ones, or the problematic Islam, is the extreme Islam and people who follow extreme Islam. But moderate Muslims, which is like the norm, is not problematic at all. Moderate Muslims are totally peaceful and all that. But that's just a completely distorted view of reality.
It is. And what hurts, again, like for me, it's when I hear Canadians or white people generally, or when I say white people, I mean not from our background, right? When they call me an Islamophobe or a racist because they're using the lingo of Islamists, they're using the lingo of the Muslim Brotherhood, that they harm us in our countries. Yeah. And now Canadians and Americans are using the same lingo, thinking that they're doing good. They don't know that these are the accusations spewed by Islamists against us.
Yeah. Think about it. There are so many countries in which criticizing Islam, which every apostate, which everyone who leaves Islam simply does by stating why they left Islam. It's completely natural. You just do that. If someone asks you, so why did you leave Islam? Why don't you believe in Islam? Whatever you say, it will be blasphemy. It will be offensive to Islam. So, and you will deserve the death penalty for that, or prison sentence for that. It's so ridiculous. But on top of that, we have we have apostasy laws. So many countries in which leaving Islam alone without even saying anything, just making it public that you left Islam, can be punished with a prison sentence or with death. Yeah. And in these countries, we receive these accusations of Islamophobia, and then you come to the West, and in the West people call you an Islamophobe. It really the imbalance of logical thought here is ridiculous.
Well, we're also running out of places to go to where we're not condemned and vilified. As Muslims.
I really always want to remind people of this. There are many Muslims who defend these apostasy and blasphemy laws, and to say, well, if you live in a Muslim country, if you live in Islamic lands, then you should just abide by the laws. Well, okay, but then many Muslims completely lose their cool when a cartoon is drawn somewhere in the West, in France, for example, which is completely protected under free speech. So it definitely doesn't go the same way. And now imagine apostates are punished and killed. Simply leaving Islam and converting to a different religion is punished and killed in many countries. Would Muslims react the same way, just as reasonably, if in other cultures converting to Islam and practicing Islam was forbidden and was punished with death. Would they ever react in the same reasonable way? It is the same thing. It is exactly the same thing. I'm sorry. And they would never react the same way. We would complain about it forever, as much as we are complaining about Israel and China, for example.
Well, and this is a pattern that is unfortunately growing across many nations, not just Europe, not just Canada, not just the States. You have Australia, you have South America, the Caribbean. It's happening. It's just the mainstream media skews people's focus, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So even though this, I call it a contamination, this Islamic invasion that's happening. But the media is playing, unfortunately, a very, very big role. Absolutely.
So what are you doing around these times? You have a YouTube channel, by the way. I completely forgot to say that. You have a YouTube channel. For all those who don't, many people probably do know, but for all those who don't know, One Godless Woman, Iman, has a YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is right down there in the description of this video. You can find it right there. So what are you doing right now at this point with your activism on YouTube?
Well, I had to, when we all got locked down, I also have a podcast, by the way. It's on all the platforms, also under One Godless Woman.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry, awesome. I had to throw that out there.
Do it.
I created another channel called One Godless Daily, where I would sit down every day and just critique different, especially local things that are funny, that are happening here with our politicians who love the Muslim Brotherhood so much. So I started doing daily videos because the lockdown, can't go out, can't really protest anything. Not that I want to, given the environment right now. But I remain active through my podcast, through my YouTube. I'm hoping once this lockdown is over, I was supposed to go on a speaking tour in Alberta. I'm hoping that happens and I can finally get out to speak.
That would be great. That would be great. Good luck with that. I hope that happens for you.
Thank you. Are you giving anything? Do you go out for speeches?
I was supposed to start this year. In 2019, I got a few requests, and I was I was dealing with anxiety and all that, so I didn't really want to get out of my space. Then in 2020, I thought, okay, this is now the time has come, and I was supposed to attend several events, go give speeches, and then suddenly everything went crazy with the whole COVID. It comes just in time, so. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of crazy right now. It's not much is happening, but I would love to sometime really go out and speak.
Awesome.
Wonderful. I want to read super chats and some questions if people want to ask questions, if people want to make some compliments and say nice things and all that. I would love to go through that. First off, Hindu historian, who is always here, made a donation of 100 Canadian dollars and said, if I wasn't working from home, I would have spent 10 times this much in the cafeteria last month. So thank you, Hindu historian. I hope you work from home more often. It's a terrible thing to say. No.
Oh my God, that's too funny.
But I appreciate that. Thank you, Hindu historian. Harshavardhan made a super chat, made a super sticker. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I don't know if I pronounced your name correctly, but I can do nothing for that. I'm just some Turk. I don't know how to pronounce things. 12 BKL My Shoe made a super chat and said, so excited for this interview. Been watching One Godless Woman for some time. Awesome.
That's you. For you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, 12 BKL My Shoe. Nicholas Paulson made a super chat and said, thanks for your content. Keep it up. Also, don't forget to buy some bones and treats for your dog. Oh, there's my dog. He's sleeping.
You forgot about your dog.
I completely forgot that I have a dog. So. He's right here somewhere. I brought him here for emotional support, to have a dog with me on my show, but he's sleeping right now. So
okay.
But thank you so much, Nicholas. I appreciate that. B. Demirbas made a super sticker and said, "You are amazing." Thank you so much, B. Demirbas. We both appreciate that. Thank you very much. King Rich became a member of the channel. Welcome, King Rich.
Nice.
And King Rich now has a prophet avatar next to his name, so that's really awesome.
I have a question though.
What?
Tell me your opinion, because I see where I'm at. Canadians are very afraid. The West in general seems to be afraid, maybe a little bit confused. Why are they so ready to give up their freedoms? Why?
I don't know. I guess it's kind of it's a very deep issue that I think goes back to I don't know. It has so many different layers. I think they're not really. It's not really about the freedom because they don't consciously think about the freedom. It is more the illusion of this constant self-criticism that has been around in the West for the last century, or maybe for the last half century, for the last decades. This whole criticism, this whole because so many foreign people have arrived here, so many foreign workers have arrived here, and who now become a reality of this big cultural group of these countries, and who then complain about how they don't feel as comfortable here as they feel at home. Western people fall into this fallacy, fall into this hole where they think, oh, these people need help. It is our responsibility. We must do something. And in their struggle to provide equality and provide justice, they completely lose themselves and do things that are contrary to providing justice and equality and contrary to freedom. And I guess you came to that because I was talking about the prophet thing or something. I don't know, but that's for example, that's an example with it too. When Muslims, for example, are offended about drawings, about things that offend Muslims, Western people really take that very seriously. Because Muslims are so energetic about these complaints that they think, oh, we are in charge here. We must do something. We must help these people. We must help them feel safer. So I don't know. It's a huge mess. It's a mystery.
Really is. It really truly is. And do you feel like, anyway, I don't want to bring the mood down, but does it hurt you? Do you feel sad? Do you laugh at them? Like, what do you feel when you see this?
It makes me angry at some points. It really does make me angry to see how deluded people get in their effort for social justice and for equality and all that. It really makes me feel angry at some points when I feel like these people are really exaggerating. These people have no clue what's really going on in the world, and they're exaggerating. And it does make me angry, but. I don't know. It's just so confusing. Yeah. It is very confusing. Sometimes it makes me laugh because they come with such approaches, with some strategies, with some such sentiments that just seem very ridiculous to me. But it's also sad to think about it, to think about how people are ready to change their own culture in such a terrible way because they think they need to correct something that is not broken.
No, it is not.
It is ridiculous. Yeah. What do you think?
Me?
Yeah. What do you think about all that?
I see this. I see the ideological subversion because I see it in the media, and that's partially how I woke up to the Islamic conquest that's happening in the West right now, especially the one in Canada, because we are very sensitive to things like da'wah. Mm-hmm. To Islamists, to the agenda of Islamic conquest. We know people like you and me. Mm-hmm. Whereas the West and the people who live here don't. So we're very sensitive to the early stages. And I saw the early stages, and I've been trying to wake people up forever. And the other thing for me here is laziness. Canadians are lazy. They're too comfortable. They're just too comfortable.
I tend to say when people don't go through rough times,
Yeah.
they tend to get very soft and very
Weak.
kind of lazy in their thinking, because the West is so comfortable. We don't have wars. We don't have actual real struggles. No one is really going through big struggles. Everything is just wonderful. It is heaven compared to certain other cultures. And in this atmosphere, I was recently actually reading a book about how over time. I don't remember what the book is called, but it was basically about how violence has decreased over the centuries and over the millennia, and it was basically also explaining how in Western culture and similar cultures where we have increasingly peace, the last few generations didn't, where the last few generations, especially the current young generations, have never experienced actual struggles, actual hardships. These people tend to take very little problems, like very small incidents of hate crimes or small incidents of homicides out in the street, like stuff that is completely normal throughout the day in regular neighborhoods in other cultures. They tend to take these things very seriously because they are not used to seeing a lot of chaos, to seeing a lot of hardship, a lot of crime going on, which is why in Canada, for example, or in America, or in the UK, or in other places, people tend to take very little crimes that happen in the street, even if it's only like one crime or two crimes or three crimes in a year. They tend to take these things very seriously and equate themselves with the struggles of other countries where instead of 3 crimes a year, 300 crimes a year happen. So it comes down to human psychology. It's very hard to explain that these people that people don't properly see the problem. It can't properly assess the problem.
Yeah.
And especially on top of that, if Muslim culture comes, and Muslim culture is very sensitive about very basic things like offending the religion or offending your values, for example, if they come and if they are so loud about the things that they are offended about, people in the West, especially since they're so soft right now, and especially since in the last century we had major issues like the Nazis that really scared people into being calm and tolerant. If they see that a minority is so upset about things so easily, they tend to jump to their help and feel like they are doing something right when they are not. They are simply reinforcing, a lack of freedom, reinforcing atrocities that come with Islamic culture, for example.
Exactly. And have you watched, do you know who Yuri Bezmenov is? Have you watched his YouTube videos? He was a journalist, defector from the Soviet Union. And Yuri Bezmenov was his name. Y-U-R-I. He talks about the ideological subversion, how it works. Like it's a fascinating series that he put out on YouTube. I would recommend people, especially if you don't understand what's happening, look at his videos. They are the first step to understanding what's going on in the West.
That's a good recommendation. Everybody, check that out. I'm going to go on with the super chats briefly, and then you can always jump in and we can always keep talking. I just don't want to keep the super chats hanging. I always. I would find myself very rude if I did that. Lance Johnson made a super chat and said, God bless you both for exposing this cult. Thank you so much, Lance. Although I don't believe in God, I appreciate the sentiment because I'm familiar with it.
Same.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Said Ibrahim made a super chat and didn't attach any comment or question to that, but I appreciate that very much, Said Ibrahim. Thank you so much. Bas Sebellos made a super chat and said, "And stay away from Islam." Thank you. That is always my final line here. So just in case I forget it, someone made a super chat and did that already. King Buddy made a super chat and said, "GBU, one godless woman. I am an ICU nurse. Come work at my hospital, and no doctor will threaten you in any way."
Oh, thank you. I used to love working in the ICU. I used to be in charge of it like overnight. It was so much fun. It was just very challenging, right?
Uh-huh.
Loved it.
That's awesome. What does GBU stand for, by the way? Excuse my ignorance. I have no idea.
GPU. I don't know what
No,
GPU.
GBU.
General practitioner. I don't know what GPU is actually.
Maybe it might stand for God bless you. I don't know.
Oh, GB. Oh, maybe.
I have no idea. I'm just an ignorant guy. I'm an immigrant. Excuse me. I don't know. All right. Abdullah Samir is here. Abdullah Samir made a super chat and said, is it true that one godless woman thinks I'm a closeted Muslim?
No, I don't think you're a closeted Muslim. I think my comment was, I usually can't tell the difference between regular, good old-fashioned moderate Muslims and ex-Muslims without ex-Muslims actually saying it. Moderate Muslims go about their lives normal, at least the ones I know here. And speaking to them, they criticize the ideology. There's a lot of stuff. They have a lot of issues with the ideology, and they're okay with it. And for the most part, it's the same with me. Unless I say I'm ex-Muslim, who would know?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Who would know? Nobody, really. You kind of have to attach it.
I see.
That's all I meant.
Okay, Abdullah Samir, I hope that answers your question. Let's not start wars here. Let's not start hostilities here.
I'm not. I hope he doesn't get. I mean, no offense at all.
Okay. That's good to know. Abdullah Samir and I, we had our differences in the past. We fought too because
normal. It's normal.
Yeah, it's because I was right and he was wrong.
Each other, we're allowed to disagree. It doesn't mean we have to wage war on each other.
That's true. We can even harshly disagree, terribly disagree.
Absolutely.
In this case, yeah.
And still be able to function together,
Absolutely. And in that case, I said something that was right, and Abdullah Samir said something that was wrong, and that's why we had a fight, a disagreement. But yeah. Monica Furtado made a super sticker and said #1 fan. Thank you so much, Monica Furtado. I don't know #1 fan of who. I hope it's not me. I hope it's.
Look at this guy.
No, just kidding. Just kidding. Thank you so much, Monica Furtado. Jean Wallace said, blessings from Northern Ireland. Thank you so much, Jean Wallace. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. And greetings to Northern Ireland. Hope everything is well over there. B. Demirbaş made another super chat and said, how close to real life in Saudi Arabia is the movie Wajda from Haifa al-Mansour? I think it's much worse than in the movie. Are you familiar with that movie?
I want to say I am. I've watched a few movies. If you want to see the reality of women in Saudi Arabia, watch Death of a Princess.
Death of a Princess. I want to make that note myself. Death of a Princess.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the movie Wajda? Did you see that?
I want to say I have. My memory is so poor. I watch so much, but I want to say yes, I have.
Okay.
The other one that's really close to my life in Saudi Arabia was Caliphate, the show Caliphate.
Oh, that new one that is on Netflix. Right?
Yeah.
What do you mean that? Yeah. Uh-huh.
That was pretty much my existence in Wahhabi, where I grew up there in Riyadh.
Yeah, no, I saw that. I wanted to watch it, but
it's good.
The thing is, it started so dark, and I kind of thought I want to wait a little bit until I'm at a better mood.
In an okay place.
Yeah.
To watch it. Yeah.
No, I totally understand that. All right, thank you so much, Peter Mirbash. I hope that answers your question, and thank you for the super chat. Another super chat comes from Stefan Milojevic, who is here as always and said, type Emmer Stein Center on YouTube and a vomit emoji. Oh, I'm familiar. I'm familiar with the Emmer Stein Center. That's a YouTube channel, I think, that is trying to do this this supposedly peaceful Islamic missionary, Islamic apologetics approach on YouTube. It looked very terrible and disgusting to me when I checked it out. But
isn't every channel that promotes it like that. Oh, by the way, I did a video on caliphate. You guys should watch it. I did a video on that.
That's nice.
Anyway, all the channels that promote it, this is how they behave. Islamists enter societies through victimhood and deception. That's how they operate.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That is how it works. That is how it works.
Yeah.
That's what Christopher Hitchens pointed out, I think, quite a while ago, obviously before he died. But I always wonder if he was around today and he said Christopher Hitchens, if he said the things that he said when he was alive, he would cause chaos in today's environment.
Yeah, we need strong atheists right now.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy how things have changed so much, where things that he said back then would be considered very controversial today, and that was just 10 years ago or so. Yeah, or more.
You know, it's all we can do is make use of what's happening to educate people as much as we can, as much as humanly possible. I, in the beginning, used to get angry a lot, especially in the beginning when I saw what was going on in Canada. Very angry. And I have to say this, anger solves a big fat zero. It solves nothing.
Yeah, it's true. Okay. What am I looking at? I had a notebook here where I made notes during our conversation, and then during our conversation I completely forgot it and switched the sides, and then I'm looking at it and it says COVID, MERS, Jinns at night, and what the hell is this?
What is this?
These are apparently notes that I made at some other point because I wanted to talk about them in some video or so. I don't know. Why am I talking about Jinns at night?
How do you feel about the call to prayer?
Oh my God! I made a video about that quite recently, actually, which I called. At first, I wanted to call it the Islamic conquest of North America, but then I thought, okay, that's a little bit too far. So I called it Islamic dominance in North America, which is not very different, but still. But it's awful. I mean, it happened here in America. It happened here in Minneapolis, which is just a few hours away from me.
Isn't that Keith Ellison, the Muslim Brotherhood guy?
Yeah.
The chaos.
Yeah, his people, those people pushed it here. You have it all over Canada, and in Canada, the Islamic call to prayer is being recited during Ramadan. How is it now after Ramadan? Did they actually stop, or are they still continuing that?
I haven't gone down. I have very bad, horrific flashbacks, right? So all I can tell you is that it's being pushed to continue on. That's all I know. They're pushing hard, and the laws have been changed to allow it to continue on forever. They've been changed. So we'll see. It
is ridiculous. I mean, people really need to understand that the Islamic call to prayer is not just something that is not just a call to prayer. I mean, that's a complete misidentification of what it actually is. You can call it a call to prayer because it serves as a call to prayer. And it says at some point, "Hurry to the prayer, hurry to salvation." And when it's pronounced, people know that they are supposed to go to the mosque and pray, or that it's now prayer time. But the call to prayer, the adhan, says more than just that. It declares that there is no God but Allah, that all the other gods are false. It says that Muhammad is Allah's messenger. It says Allah is the greatest. So the whole concept of the adhan, of the Islamic call to prayer, is there to declare how the Islamic religion, the Islamic faith, is supreme and reigns supreme, and is the only acceptable, the only valid thing. And reciting it in public speaks in your name. It invalidates all the other religions that are in your community. So it is really offensive. It is truly offensive.
And I saw the video that you did on the call to prayer, and I just wanted to let you know that I shared it, and I think it's brilliant.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate it so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. I really want people to understand that it's not. I mean, people think, oh, let's just be tolerant. It's just a prayer thing. That's just what Muslims do. It's just their religion. Why don't we just let them do that? But it's not just a religious thing. It is really a hostile practice that served for hostilities and for conquest and domination in the history of Islam. Yeah. So people really need to learn more about that. It is a war cry. It is an announcement that this place is now Islamic land. It is much more than just a religious practice, seriously.
And they've doubled, like, do you know about, Canadians don't even know about this. Do you hear about M103, the motion, the anti-Islamophobia motion that was passed?
I haven't followed it. I heard about it like 21, was that 2 years ago? But I haven't really since heard about that much.
Oh, it's all the Islamists love it. They immediately run to it to call everyone an Islamophobe. Everyone. It doesn't matter if they are funding, if they've been caught funding terrorism, if they've been caught bringing hate speak people. They don't care. You're still an Islamophobe. They don't care.
Can you explain what the motion kind of stands for, just to summarize, just for those who don't know?
Well, when it was created, nobody knew what Islamophobia stands for, because they were trying to, you know how I say they conflate things. They conflated a lot of words in the definition of Islamophobia, because you have the term anti-Muslim bigotry. It exists. And that's the correct term that you want to use. Whereas the term Islamophobia, they ended up writing a big paragraph in I don't know, in this motion of what they have agreed is the description of Islamophobia. And I'm like, I don't even understand. In it, you can't criticize the ideology. You can't criticize or hate Muslims. I'm like, so basically everything. We can't criticize an ideology now in Canada. Without what? So in the beginning, we're going to be called Islamophobes, but down the road, where will this lead?
It's just ridiculous. That goes against the very foundation of free speech, which is something that that Western civilizations should have learned after what we call the Enlightenment. I mean, that is one of the major things that Voltaire, for example, is supposed to have taught, is supposed to have given the West, that you are supposed to respect speech, even if no one likes it, even if no one agrees with it, even if the highest authorities or the lowest people are very dissatisfied and very offended by it. You cannot punish it. You cannot take it away. You must let it happen. Everything else doesn't work. It goes into the wrong direction.
No, and this is the thing. Once you start even creating, everyone's like, oh, it's a toothless motion. It's just a motion. It's not law. Well, for now, and you can see how they use these terms against people. So once it becomes law, because that's the way we're heading, what's next? We're going to be no different than the Islamist societies, right?
Yeah, you cannot go there. It's contrary to everything we stand for. All right. I will check a few more comments to see if anybody has a question. I will try to see questions. It's hard for me to see the normal questions, but I will go through them. Don DBB made a super chat and said, "How are you so normal after all of that happened?" I guess that refers to your treatment in Saudi Arabia. I guess that's what the chat is referring to.
I've been normal for a long time. Time helps. Therapy, even though you spend a lot of money, but it's just the emotional trauma, not mental. It's the hurt, it's the pain, and then the pain of being disowned by your own family, right? Yeah. You go on with life. You have to go on with life. And Canadians, I mean, regardless whether they think they need me or not, I have a job to do. And I kind of have to be in one functioning piece to be able to do it. So I gain my strength from my supporters, who are amazing, just amazing people, and people like you, Ridvan.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, no, it is a struggle. I mean, I have not remotely gone through the same thing that you have gone through. So I really applaud you for your strength and for your endurance and your activism, your dedication, to determination, everything you have done and you do, your readiness to be out here and to speak, to help others. It's really I commend that. It's awesome. It's great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I haven't remotely gone through the same thing. It's just what you experience, what I experience is to be brought up with that religion, brought up with some terrible indoctrination. I actually prepared a video. I want to publish it later today, in which I want to talk about the whole sexual stuff, for example, as a man, and how you are basically indoctrinated to be. I don't know what words to say, because it will sound very offensive, but you are indoctrinated to dehumanize women, to objectify women, to own women, to violate women. That is what you learn about your male nature, and that is what Islam indoctrinates you into. And for decades you grow up with that from your childhood, and then you break free from that. And after you break free from that, you are accused of being the immoral one, and other people distance themselves from you because you reject to be a rapist. So it's I don't know. Maybe I'm going too far with the language, but
I kept my sanity, and it's gonna be a little bit X-rated. I'm sorry. What kept me sane in the capital where I was living, which is Wahhabi Central in Riyadh, was a place called the Diplomatic Quarter. It's the DQ in short. It's where all the foreign embassies, the ambassadors, and the people that worked in the embassies were located, and it was a gated community. But because I was British, I had a British passport. I used to flash my passport and go in. And I used to have all kinds of sex and all kinds of alcohol and all kinds of pork. So that was my favorite place. It kept me sane. You know, I'd leave the madrasa and go to
That's awesome. That is awesome. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Did you not try to break little rules?
Yeah.
Yeah, you remember being naughty?
Yeah. The thing with me is I was kind of I grew up in a very religious family, and I wasn't very religious, but I was kind of scared of things, and I was abiding by certain things all the time. I was trying to be respectful of my faith. I would pay attention to the very little things, like always saying the basmala before I eat something or before I do something. All these terrible stupid things, but it sounds so stupid right now. But I just became. I did things completely. I enjoyed my freedom at certain points throughout my life, but at some point I just became extremely religious.
Yeah.
And for several years, I was a complete nut job with my religiosity. And
how old were you? Do you remember your age?
Well, it was my late. When was that? 18. Yeah. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Around those times, I just became I was very, very religious, and I was trying to practice my religion as much as I could, tell others about it, invite others to it. I was very crazy. I would pray day and night, read day and night, and get very little sleep. It was a time of complete insanity. But I'm kind of glad that it happened, because that happened, I think I found myself so disappointed and so knowledgeable and so hostile against Islam. Yeah. So it's kind of maybe there's something good in it. But that religious phase is why I'm doing what I'm doing right now.
Exactly. A lot of people, and I'm not saying you became radicalized, but you were on that path and you just turned around, and that's good, because many people wait until they are fully radicalized and they have blood on their hands before they wake up. So I'm glad to. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. I will come to a few more questions, and then I guess we can conclude this talk. But we will definitely talk again, because I really enjoy sitting down and talking to you.
Thank you.
Jill Baron. How do you actually pronounce it? I don't even know. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Please tell me how you pronounce your name. I don't want to be rude. The only reason anyone is truly afraid of Islam is because of the threat of violence associated with criticizing it. Thanks, guys. he said in a super chat. Thank you so much. I appreciate that for the super chat. I appreciate the idea, the opinion. It's absolutely true. I would say some people are really concerned about offending and being associated with causing offense. But many other people definitely are afraid of the threats of violence that are associated with it. That is absolutely true. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Hindu Historian made another super chat and said, how about a video about UK grooming gangs? Oh my God.
Oh, that's a heavy one. Yeah.
It is. It is. I thought about, for 2 years, I thought about whether I should ever talk about that or not. And I still feel like if I ever go into that, I don't know how I'm going to get out of that. And,
yeah. I would cry. I would, I'd break down.
Yeah. But thank you, Hindu Historian. Thank you. Doc Boutique made a super chat and said, could you speak or make a video about male circumcision? I had that in mind, actually. I want to do that at some point. I definitely have to have some things that I want to say about it.
By the way, yeah, we have grooming gangs in Canada. I can't talk about it yet, but it exists. Yeah, just wanted to throw that out there. Yeah.
It is. I mean, it is probably not as big of an epidemic as it is in the UK, but I would believe that it exists throughout different cultures, definitely. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for the super chats. I will try to pick out some more random stuff here. Abdullah Napo said coronavirus is hard to cure. Bible Twitty said God, Word, and Spirit Trinity. What else is here? Noah Pritchett said ISIS made life so boring and so religious. Thank God I never lived under their rule. There don't seem to be any questions, just mostly comments. Olimi Olabi said I cannot blame her. I don't know what that is in reference to.
Okay.
Ash Blah said, hey, Apostate Prophet, how is your relation with your parents in Turkey after you revealed you're no more a Muslim? It deteriorated, definitely, to a certain extent. I talked about that in a separate video. I never thought they would be after me, trying to kill me or stuff like that, because although they're religious, they are not from such a culture. Turkey is different, and they are from a more spiritualist, mysticist background. So their treatment of this whole situation is a little bit different. But they're of course very disappointed with me. But I think I talked about it once. I don't really want to talk about it very much anymore. It kind of would be unfair to them, I believe. But yeah, sadly, it has its negative aspects, negative consequences.
Well, I want to say that I'm proud of you, and I wanted to thank you for your courage, Ridwan, and your work that you've been doing and the efforts that you put out to wake people up. Thank you. Thank you so much,
Ivan. I appreciate that very much. I wanted this to be more about you. I wanted to praise you more, but you have praised me so much. I just don't know how to respond.
It's the truth. I'm not praising.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Okay. I really appreciate what you do. I think you're doing an amazing job too. You've gone through a lot. I hope everything goes well for you. You deserve the best. We'll talk again, definitely in the future.
Absolutely.
I would love that. Someone asked me about my Turkish channel, by the way. I'm going to upload something on my Turkish channel this week, hopefully, if I can. I'm very sorry. I'm kind of delaying all that stuff, but I'll do that.
You have a Turkish channel?
Yeah, I created that several months ago, like 4 months ago. I just started.
Link it. Please link it. So
I will do that.
Food? Do you make Turkish food?
No, I'm doing the same thing that I'm doing here, just in Turkish. It's called Apostate Prophet Turkish, where I just share kind of like basic criticism of Islam and insights about Islam in Turkish.
My gosh, good on you.
Thank you. But I was also thinking of making a Turkish food channel.
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Oh my God.
I'm just kidding. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. I appreciate your participation. Thanks for coming here. Thanks for joining. Thanks for the super chats. Thanks for the live chats. Thanks for all the wonderful comments. Thanks for being here. I will see you again Thank you, Iman, One Godless Woman, for being here, for joining me. I love it. I appreciate it so much. I will talk to you again. And everybody have a great time. I will publish a video later today, hopefully. Have a fantastic day. And, oh, do you want to say any final words before you go?
No, I love you all.
Wonderful. She loves you all. And everybody stay away from Islam.
Is it still?
Yeah, it might take a few seconds. I'm still here. I am still here. Stay away from Islam. Stay away from Islam.